I am a coach, so that's what coaches do.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what coaches do. But I will let you into a little bit of my bag of tricks if
Oh,
you'd like.
yes.
The A couple of things that when my visionaries like you, when you call me or a leadership team member calls me, one of the things that I need to get them doing is talking about their issue.
Okay.
So one of the big questions that I love to start with is what's on your mind?
Mhm.
What's on your mind? And then what else? Because I've got to really listen to them and I've got to see the words that they're using. Because if they're using words of scarcity or I'm defeated or fearful language, I talk about that in the book, using the phrases like I'm afraid that,
Yeah.
then it really helps me know where their mindset is. And then from that, second little step here in my coaching process is what I get them to do is to see that there is a 2% chance that they're wrong.
Okay.
So if I'm afraid that this, I'm afraid that that, then sometimes I'll ask them, I'll say, just for 2 minutes, tell me everything that's going right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times entrepreneurs get caught in this gap of everything is going to shit.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's not true. There's a couple things that are going to shit. So I help them see a little glimmer of hope, but that's really where that encouraging process really starts.
Yeah.
You got to get to the heart of what's really going on in their mind, how they're thinking, and then get them to see a little glimmer of hope of where maybe how they're thinking might not be so bad after all. But
Yeah.
that's my proven secret formula process for getting entrepreneurs back on track.
Yeah, I would think that that's really important. Like, I would think that probably some of your more successful entrepreneurs out there almost don't ever recognize the shit that's going wrong, the fear. They're always focused on the positive. Like, that's how I am. Like, I'm optimist. Oh, I'm overly optimistic and positive thinking. I hardly ever kind of get stuck in the mud on what's going wrong. I try to know that it's there and fix it. But I focus on the positive stuff, and I think that that's probably one of the key things that, if you are always stuck in the negative and what's going wrong, that's tough to be an entrepreneur. Like, that's going to be a tough thing to get
Yes.
past.
It's interesting that you brought that up. You said I try to stay optimistic and positive, and I'm looking into the future and all of the possibilities. But then you also said at the same time, I see the problems. Let's go ahead and fix them.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually working on writing a new book right
Okay.
now.
Breaking
The
news.
the working title is The Art of Both.
Okay.
And it's really based on that Stockdale paradox of where we really need to hold both things in our mind at the same time. So you need to hold optimism for the future
Yeah.
in your brain, and you need to hold, something is on fire over there. I've got to go put that out. And those leaders who are just one way or the other,
Yeah.
really hard. They're not finding success long term, or they're running people over or running people off. And of course, there's a handful of them that can think one way and totally be successful. But for the rest of us,
Yeah.
really the art of knowing what approach to take in the certain situation.
Yeah.
And I'm shying away from the word of using balance.
Okay.
It's not a balance because I'm not trying to say you've got to be both at all times.
Yep.
It's the art of what approach do I need to take right now? I'm Kevin Lackey. Right now, does my company need some optimistic pep talk?
Yeah.
Or right now, does my company need a little bit of reality kicking the ass coming at them?
Okay.
And I that's why I love your ram it
Yeah.
theory, the retreat, average, or
Massive.
massive. It's because every day you wake up, you say to yourself, "What approach am I taking today?"
Yeah.
And Kevin, you and I've had long discussions about this. Not every day is going to be a massive action day.
Yeah.
I just had 5 days over the Thanksgiving holidays of retreat
Yeah.
on purpose.
Yeah.
because now I am alive and I'm rejuvenated and I'm ready to go serve the world. So it's really the art. It's the art
It's the
of both.
discipline, right?
Yeah, the art of discipline.
It's the
Yay.
art of discipline. Yeah. Golly,
Sometimes I'm disciplined, and sometimes I'm very disciplined and not being disciplined.
yeah. And sometimes that's necessary.
That's right. It is scheduled time for frolicking and spontaneity.
There you go. Get up and run and do burpees in your office. Is that what you're going to do
I
right now?
do.
I know.
I do
Y-
that. It happens. You
So
know that.
I know.
Push up.
So I want to ask this. Can you paint the picture of a typical business and what you see? I hate to say typical. I mean, and put businesses in a box. But because of this mesmerizing, social media entrepreneur, like everybody's kind of chasing something, and it's like Lamborghinis and millions of dollars and big houses, and that is just not anywhere near the reality for most business owners
Mm-mm.
and entrepreneurial companies or entrepreneurs and their companies that come to you. So a lot of people are just working to make what they would be considered a good living, to provide for their family, put a roof over their head, to be able to have some flexibility in their schedule. Like, paint the picture of what you see, because I think that's important as people really are asking themselves, why do I want to do this, and boiling all those things down slowly. And it's like, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And if you're passionate about fixing cars or tinting windows or installing home theaters or whatever your passion may be that leads you into an entrepreneurial opportunity, uh, most businesses, in my experience, they don't have these, not everybody has Lamborghinis. Like, there's entrepreneurs all up and down every road in America living in, regular size homes. They
Yep.
still struggle to make the mortgage. They're still
Mm-hmm.
struggling to get their kids in summer camp, and they're working 6 days a week and 50-hour weeks and all those other
Yeah.
things. And they can be happy, and that can be their dream. They're not working for someone else. They're paying their bills. But what does that look like? Does that make sense, that question?
It totally makes sense, and I have a few thoughts for you. Number one, when you talk about those entrepreneurs who are still struggling to meet their mortgage and they're
Yeah.
working 6 days a week, we have a term for that in EOS, and we call it hitting the ceiling.
Okay.
And hitting the ceiling can be, definitely a ceiling of revenue. Your company can never do more than 150 million, and like, why can't we break through that ceiling? But your ceiling can also be, I can never work less than 6 days a week,
Yeah.
or I never have enough left over at the end of the month. So you can apply it to a lot of things, but it's usually they're very these types of entrepreneurs are very frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
They're frustrated with the control that they thought they would have by running their own business. They're frustrated with profits. They're frustrated with their people.
Yeah.
They hear people saying, delegate, hire good people. And then they do. And then someone steals money from them, or they don't show up.
Yeah.
And really, like, Kevin, that's when people do finally call me, is they're done with that frustration.
Okay.
Now, I have to imagine, and we see statistics out there in the small business world, that I think maybe past 2 years, only 82% of companies go out of business in the first 2 years.
Yeah, that's scary.
Because they hit that ceiling and go, oh my gosh, this is not what I planned. I'm going back to that secure job, make my money, have my health insurance. I do not want this life.
Yeah.
The others who break through the ceiling a couple of times the hard way,
Yep.
that's when they're calling me, and they've got the 10 employees, or maybe they've got $10 million of revenue, and they're like, okay, now I'm just sick of being frustrated. Let's do something about it. So that, when you say paint the picture, I hope that painted the picture of those entrepreneurs who are really just staying under that ceiling. And you don't have to,
Yeah.
but you got to get together. And that's,
But the majority of the 20% or 18% of people who actually make it past 2 years, a lot of them are really just hitting a ceiling most of the time.
yeah,
They're paying their
yeah.
bills.
And they find a way to break through it. what's sad is that they usually break through the ceiling by working longer and harder,
Yeah.
which at some point we
Like
all only
brute
have
force.
24/7.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brute force. But then they fall into this trap where they hit a ceiling again and they say to themselves, maybe even subconsciously, here comes my psychology degree again. And their subconscious says to them, how did you break through this ceiling last time? Oh, I worked harder and longer. Okay, let me do that again.
Yeah.
And then you've got burnout and bad relationships and no work-life satisfaction.
Yeah.
Can I say a couple more things about
Please.
that? Because this might be really great for your listeners, especially if you're thinking about taking the leap, or if you've already taken the leap and you're like, why is this not working for me?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just not working in one area. I'm a big fan of strategic coach.
Okay.
That's where I go for my coaching, because coaches need coaches. But I know one thing that Dan Sullivan, he and Bab Smith are the co-founders of Strategic Coach. They said, are you, if you're this entrepreneur, are you running away from something to be an entrepreneur? Or are you running to something to be an entrepreneur? And if you're running away from something, entrepreneur life, that just might not stick for you. But if you're running to something, that's probably to a bigger, brighter future.
It's like a calling that you can't ignore any longer or something.
All in, you can't. Yes, calling, you can't ignore it any longer. And those the best types of things, and this just comes from my opinion, that I see entrepreneurs who really make this work is they're running to serve somebody else.
Yeah.
And so when you think, Lamborghinis, airplanes, that stuff, no, you're running to that to serve yourself.
Yeah. How many people?
It doesn't work for very long.
How many people? How do you see a transition where? So for me, just being honest with myself, whenever I was younger and starting this, I was chasing those things, the financial stability, the cool stuff, and all that, and then just over time, people change. So like that maturing process, it's like a lot of times, I think this is important for the audience to hear. Like you said, this podcast is to just bring information for people to hear and make their own decisions and judgments. And entrepreneurial life and the commitment is extremely difficult. But I don't want to scare away people from it either. And it's like, golly, what was my point? My point was that, it's that if you're an entrepreneur or you want to try to go for it, and you're thinking about the shiny stuff, I mean, there is this maturing process. Like, I think that whenever you're talking about, like, you're not going to have all the big shiny things, and, you got to do all these things, and you got to have humility and passion. Sometimes it takes a maturing process. You have to go for it and see where you end up, right? Because you're not going to just start at your end of your journey. You're not going to start as this mature, well thought through entrepreneur who doesn't want to make a lot of money. You're going to start pretty fucked up and thinking about the wrong things.
That's where we started.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, so how important is that for someone who's just going, like, they're listening, they're going, man, like, okay, I can't want any of these things. I have to be this visionary. I have to actually see the future, and I don't see that. And I don't know if I'm a risk taker. Like, how do they? Because people mature through those stages sometimes. So how do you? I mean, what advice do you give someone who's kind of like not sure?
So not going back to the entrepreneurial leap, he talks about that in the book.
Okay.
That there are traits that he believes you're born with. Now, can those mature? Absolutely, they can mature.
Yeah.
But one thing that you and I have had conversations around my son Brandon.
Yeah.
A few times. Now he's 23.
Yep.
And right now his 3 big goals is to have this great big amount of money in his bank account. His goal last year was to buy a Mustang. He did that. And so when, if we're talking about young people, they absolutely have to go through this maturity phase where, when Brandon says my biggest goal is to buy a Mustang, I'm not disappointed as a mother.
Yeah.
I know has to go through that stage. And that right there is maturing his drive.
Yep.
Now, what we are doing, Kevin, is we're sitting here as people who've been punched in the face a time or two. We're showing your audience what it looks like on the other end. And I actually am a tiny bit fearful to do this. In fact, I talk about it in my book. I said right on there on the back cover, reading this book may be harmful.
Yeah.
Because what you and I are doing right now is we're sharing lessons that we've learned as we've matured. And so I'm really glad you brought this up, because I'm not in any way saying, and I don't think you are either,
Yeah.
like, don't go after those things you want. No, heck yes, go after those things you want, because it's going to get you the skills to go after bigger things.
Yep.
And you and I have just found that those bigger things here in our 40s,
Yep.
early 40s,
very early. Yeah.
very early 40s,
Yeah.
we're finding that purpose and serving other people, that's where we ended up.
Yeah.
And so we're showing the audience, this is where you could end up. And if you look at, massively transformed people, that's where they end up too.
Yeah.
So keep, I love, if you're in that phase where you really love stuff and things, keep driving towards that if that's keeping you driving. And then someday just be heads up, be aware that you're going to wake up one morning and go, oh my gosh, I don't need all these cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're always going to need motorcycles, though.
Motorcycles, four-wheelers, jet skis. Yeah. Freedom Power Sports, USA.com. Visit us now. Black Friday special is going on forever.
But it does happen.
Yeah.
It does happen. It's a natural point of maturity. I think I've taught you guys this because you have some young people on your team. It's about age 35.
Mm-hmm.
And this is adult development at about age 35, 32, 38, some people still trying to find it at 50.
Yeah.
Is when you open your eyes and you think, I can't do all of this by myself. I can't reach all of my goals by myself. I need a team. And so therefore I need a partner. We're going to use all of our skills to
support system
and more. And you have to be tied by a common purpose.
Yeah. That's important. That makes a lot of sense. I think that whenever I think about the biggest lessons that I've learned is I've been really fortunate, and I was driven early on by certain things when I was younger. And it's when you hit certain accomplishments or financial rewards or have things, and you really truly know and understand, which you can tell someone until you're blue in the face, but until they live it, they almost never understand it, is that they don't fill you. They don't fill your cup. You think that they're going to fill your purpose or bring you some sort of lasting long reward, and they just don't. The things that you initially start out, probably desiring or being, mesmerized by, those things really, they're not sustainable. And it does take experience.
This is why we use a 10-year target in EOS.
Yep.
Put that big, hairy, audacious goal out there. But when you get there, you're going to go, high five.
Yeah.
Right? Post. We did it. And then you're going to get right back to work.
Yeah.
But it's not the end result that we're looking for. It's the drive that gets you there. It's the journey that gets you there.
Yeah. I'm glad that I didn't know. I kind of understood that, but it's like, it's the drive. It's thinking that those are important to you. And then over 10 years, you're going to go, by the time you get there, you're like, I've gone through a lot of work. I got a lot of wrinkles and a lot of
that.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
It's not the result.
Yeah.
That is exciting at that part. It's what the result or what the 10-year target does to drive you forward, to really drive you forward. You might even remember this from some of our sessions, but sometimes, the finance people on the team who are very practical will say, how in the world are we ever going to get to that?
Yeah.
And I say, nobody can, we don't need to know.
Yeah.
We need to know. We don't need to have a spreadsheet that details out that plan, because what that 10-year target is doing for us, it's uniting us
Yeah.
together. We've all got to work together. It's inspiring us and it's creating a catalyst for change. And if it does those three things, you could say 500 dealerships and I'd be happy with it,
Yeah.
as long as it's motivating us to move forward. It's just a motivator.
Well, so coming to just a point in the podcast where, people can only take in so much, that, and
Sure.
trying to be mindful of your time. What is something that you want to leave with the listeners that about your experience, or, about EOS, your book? What is something that you think would be good for the listeners to hear and know, and that you would want to leave like, what note do you want to leave with the audience?
Well, that all of that stuff they can find. They can find me on LinkedIn. They can
Yep.
find me on my website, tractionfirst.com. But Kevin, you said something in one of your earlier podcasts about, it's only $2,500 to share your message with the world. So
Yeah.
I'm going to use this time to just do some inspiration. Hopefully that's okay.
Yay. I love it.
Inspire.
Absolutely.
This is if I had to sum up my whole entire life and maybe why I've been successful and where I see other people being successful, is they just keep going. It is that simple. And you're going to keep going and you're going to keep putting one foot in front of the other and you're going to keep getting out of bed and you're going to keep going to work and you're going to keep doing a good job and when something fails for you, you're going to keep going and you're going to iterate. You don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. You're going to iterate, but you're always going to keep going. So whether, you're in college and you think, oh my gosh, this is hard, just sign up for the next semester.
Yep.
If your boss says, I think you're ready for a promotion and you're like, oh, I'm afraid of that, just say yes. If somebody asks you to, do a side hustle with them for the weekend to
Yep.
see how you like it, say yes.
Just try
Take
it.
those opportunities. Just try it. Just keep going. Take in all the opportunities that you can. And when I was 9 years old, I wanted to be an astronaut. And then I
Yeah.
wanted to be a TV news reporter and then the governor. And I'm not either of those things. But because I took different avenues and I just kept going and took those opportunities, I am living my ideal life right now, serving other entrepreneurs. So just keep going.
Well, I think that's a great message. The most important thing that you said, which I've thought a lot about personally for me, is I had a pretty checkered childhood growing up. It was, just it probably wasn't ideal. And I have a great relationship with my parents today. But when I really go back and think in time about, what that looks like, it's just crazy to me that I'm even alive, that I'm in the place I am. But one of the things that I look back at is that I did always keep going, and saying yes to opportunities, and I didn't. How I've ended up here is because of that mindset of just like over and over getting punched in the face, and then a change of course.
You get back up.
You get back up. I actually was thinking about this. I think this is just a fun story to share because of what the note that you're leaving the audience with, which is so important. But I had worked in this motorcycle dealership. The first one that I bought, I had worked there for about 7 years. And when I say this, I truly mean it. Because I was thinking about this just in the last week. I did not take in 7 years a week off of work, like a Monday through a Friday. I had taken off maybe like a Tuesday, Wednesday, because we're closed Sunday, Monday. So I might have taken like a long, from a Saturday afternoon to like a Wednesday morning or something in 7 years. And I very rarely took off. And the third time that this dealership was being sold to a new owner, they were taking over the dealership, taking control of this dealership on like a Friday or something. I forget what day of the week it was, but it was like midweek. And this was going to be the first time that I had a scheduled time off. I had it scheduled for months and months in advance for something family related to my daughter, my oldest daughter, that was out of town. And like I was in a wage of war in my head of like, oh, like I just found out. I'm in shock that they're taking over. I'm nervous because I was supposed to be trying to buy the dealership. Everything that I thought was supposed to be happening in my life like went on this massive curveball. But I kept going. I just kept digging deep and kept going, like you said, even though it was a real struggle. And then I found out that I wasn't going to be there when they took over. And I'm like, golly, how is this going to look? And then I come back to town the following week, and to find out that just in this really short window of time, the guy that took over as the management in this dealership, the management team, they had already very quickly like formed relationships and alliances kind of like within the dealership.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, the guy who had been there the longest with the most experience. But I'm coming back into this situation within literally just taking off 3 or 4 days of work. And I felt like my whole life was changing right before my eyes. I'm like, man, what is going on? And anyway, I just kept going and digging. And I was thinking the other night, like, how would my life be different if I hadn't have gone and done what I needed to do, if I had been there that first day? Like, does does just a matter of 3 days have some weird, determination on where your life can end up? Like, if I had been there, would my life be different today? Would it have changed in any way, shape, or form? Would they have fired me the first day? Was there's some sort of blessing of me not being there, right? You have to go back and look at all these things and just like having no regrets on saying yes to things and taking opportunities. I don't know. I think that there is some like mysterious, magical way that the world works out. And the point I bring it up is that you said that you thought you were going to be an astronaut, thought you were going to be, the senator or mayor. You thought, you've just landed. You've kept going and taking opportunity. And you've landed in a place where you said, like, I'm living my dream life. I'm living what.
Totally. Yep.
And I just think that's one of those things that's hard to relay that message to people wherever you're at right now. Like, you just don't know, like, when you look back at things, don't force things, right? Like, I mean, I think you don't force things, but you have to keep going and you have to say yes to things. But just as importantly is, like, don't force things. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I hear you. And I think our intuition guides us a lot in when you followed a path too long.
Yeah.
But it also can be disguised as fear.
Yeah.
So those are really tough moments when you're deciding to make a big change.
Yeah, course of life or direction.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer of you really do know when to change and when not to.
Yeah.
But what happens a lot of times is you don't talk to people about it. You just think about it. And when those thoughts when you just think about it instead of talking about it with someone, they ruminate back here in your brain, in the back side of your brain. But all of a sudden, if you just talk about it and move those thoughts through your brain, through your frontal cortex and out, as Ron Burgundy would say, out your word hole.
Yeah.
Out the word hole. When you just talk about it, you do know, and just things become really clear to you. So that's the power of coaching. Coaching is the new skill of the 21st century. Everybody needs a coach. Yeah. And I'm not saying that because I am a coach.
Yeah.
I have coaches. I know when I just talk something through, it's going to be more clear. So I think I can't tell you if you're going on the wrong path or right path, but if you talk to someone about it, it ends up being that
Yeah. Yeah.
That infinite wisdom is within us. Yeah. But just talking about it helps you get there a little faster.
Absolutely. Well, Jill, thank you so much for taking the time to share all of your experience and your wisdom and knowledge with me, the audience. I know that people will get value out of listening to you and to this conversation. And again, it's information, like you said, on the back of your book, beware, may be harmful to your life. This is just to provoke thought and to challenge people and to bring information, like I've said, and the things that you've talked about, and it has been really, really awesome. So just real quick, so Encourage, Courage where can people go find that book?
So that's the latest book, and that is on Amazon. There's another book out there for you too. If you're working in a company and you just really want to make more money, my first book is called Earn It.
Okay.
And it's secrets essentially from your bosses of what they want from you in order for them to pay you more money. So go grab that one too. That's also on Amazon.
Okay.
So the two books are on Amazon. They're also on Audible, Kindle.
Yeah.
I know it's hard for me to read a book. I like to listen to books.
Yeah.
These days.
So Jill Young, go look for that. And then also, if you're a business and you already have if you're a leader or entrepreneur and you have a business and you're looking for help, how can someone get in contact with you to just see if they're a right fit for you and you're a right fit for them?
Sure. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you type in Jill Young, Texas, I usually pop right up.
Okay.
You can also just email me directly at jill@tractionfirst.com.
Okay.
And, we'll usually talk for a half an hour or so, and we'll see if it's right for you.
Okay.
There are other implementers throughout the country. There's 350 of us throughout the world.
Yeah.
So if you're not in Dallas, Fort Worth, I can still help you get to
the right
mentor for you.
Yeah, that's the power of this podcast, right? There's people all over the world that can be listening, which is really cool. I didn't even think about that. Other countries and
all over the world, Kevin Lackey. What?
Yeah, probably not yet, but maybe one day. Who knows?
Hey, if you've got one person in Canada or one person in Mexico, it's an international podcast.
Hey, and that's a fact because of BRP, I have lots of we're a BRP dealer and they're based out of Canada, and lots of the team there have said that they love the podcast. They listen to it.
There you go. You have international impact.
Yeah, we're trying to
keep going, Kevin Lackey.
Worldwide. Well, Jill, I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to, I guess we'll see you in January or February.
I think it's January. January, we have our annual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's January. Yeah.
What date is that actually?
Why are you asking me?
Yeah, we don't have to look now. I'm like my buddy just asked
all of the other questions.
Yeah, I'll look it up. My buddy just oh, you got it?
I got it. January 21st and 22nd.
Golly, I knew you were going to say that. My buddy just texted me this morning and asked me if I wanted to go to Park Cities for the film festival or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
For what do you call it? It's the Sundance Film Festival in Park Cities. He has a condo there. And I said, yeah, I don't think I have anything. It's January 23rd through the 27th.
Well, you can go after.
Yeah. I was just looking at that. Like, I'm going to have to figure out how to make all that work in January.
Kevin, this is where we have the courage to be disciplined.
That's right.
I'm going to go to my 2-day annual, and then I'm going to turn the annual planning over to the leadership team, and then I'm going
to Park Cities.
To Park City.
Well, all right, Jill. I look forward to seeing you at our annual. Thank you so very much for taking the time. And maybe we'll have you on again whenever your new book comes out and talk about that.
Ooh, okay. Sounds good. All right. Thanks again, Kevin. It was my pleasure to serve your audience, and it's always fun hanging out with you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, RFN listeners, thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please go leave a review, subscribe to the podcast, and tell other people about it. That's what I'm looking for, is for you to leave a review, subscribe, and tell other people. If you're not enjoying the podcast for some reason, well, delete it and go find another podcast to listen to, I guess. Shit, I don't know what to tell you. No, really don't do that. Give me feedback and I'll try to do better. Yeah, no, I'm just joking. I really, literally, like, if you don't enjoy it, then there's nothing you can do. But if you enjoy it, please give feedback and subscribe, because that's important. because this is just literally from the bottom of my heart trying to bring value and information. There's not a podcast or do it perfect book. All I do is prepare and try to utilize the resources and the people that I know that can bring value. And so I hope that that's what we've done for you today. I hope you enjoy this podcast and hope you enjoy talking with Jill Young. Have a great day, and look forward to hearing you or seeing you log into the next episode.